All right. It's your boy Trey Cross, and I'm back. And guess what? We are working on major chords. Major chords is like the major chord is like the foundational chord. It is the I don't know. It's like the center of the musical universe. So the major chord, the major triad that is. So with the major chord, all it is, and by now you should already know your major scales. You have to know your major scales before you could dive into chords. Otherwise, what I'm about to say won't make any sense at all. All right. So if you didn't learn your major scales, go back and learn them. If you did, then good job. Congratulations on all your hard work. So, major chord. The formula for the major chord is the 1, the 3, and the 5. Okay? It doesn't have to be in that order, but that's what the formula is. It could be the 5, the 3, and the 1, or the 3, the 1, and the 5. Okay? So 1, 3, and 5. So before I get into that, you're gonna hear me say stuff like root chords, inversions. So I want to break that down and get that out of the way real quick so I don't lose you. All right. So anytime you hear me or anybody say something about a root chord is always based on the chord name. Okay. So we're gonna start with C. So the C major root chord. So 1, 3, and 5. Okay. So it's the root chord because the name of the chord is on the bottom of the chord. Okay. The chord starts with the name of the chord. So C, E, G. 1, 3, 5. Okay. So that's the root chord. That's almost like the standard original equipment manufacturer type of thing before we soup it all up. Okay. So this is just a regular, plain, basic major chord. C major chord. 1, 3, 5. Okay. A lot of times you're playing a root chord when the name of the chord, the note of the chord is you're playing with your thumb. That's a good indicator. That's not always the case, but that's a good indicator. But it's normally when it's at the bottom. Now if we played it like this, which is the same chord, we know we're not playing a root chord because C is not at the bottom. Or like this because C is not at the bottom, it's at the top. So this is the root chord. Okay? Alright. So got that out the way. The other thing I need you to know before we dive in is how inversions work. Here's a super quick lesson on inversions. Inversions is basically switching a chord around, and you can switch a chord around as many times. So the amount of times you can switch a chord around equals the number of notes that's in the chord. So if I have a 2-note chord, if I have a back chord, I can only switch this chord around. I can play it this way, C and E, or I can play it this way, C and E, or E and C. Okay, because it's 2 notes, I can play it 2 ways. All right. So a triad, which is a 3-note chord, triad is a 3-note chord. I can play it 3 ways because it has 3 notes. Okay, C, E, G. That's the root chord. Then I can play another inversion. I'm sorry. E, G, C. That's another way I can play it. Or G, C, E. So because it has 3 notes, I can play it 3 different ways. That's how that works. Okay, so that's inversions. And so while I'm here, I might as well tell you what your inversions are. So you got the root chord, C major root chord. Now, this is the same if we were playing the E flat major root chord. Same thing. E flat, G, B flat. 1, 3, 5 of the E flat major scale. Okay. So that's another thing. the major chords, whatever chord you're playing, the name of the chord is based on the major scale of that chord. Okay, so if we say we want to play the C major chord, we have to base the C major chord off of the C major scale. And if we want to play the A flat major chord, we have to base the A flat chord off the A flat major scale. Same thing with F major scale, F sharp major scale, A major, A flat major scale. So that's how that works. So back to the inversions. C major root chord, all right? So then we go to the first inversion. This is the first way, or the first time we're going to invert this chord. So the first inversion is going to be E, G, C, or 3, 5, 1. So look at it like this. The first inversion of a root chord, of a major chord, is basically when the root note, which is C, is on the top of the chord. Okay? So that's the same thing with all the chords. So that if we want to play the first inversion for an A flat major chord, A flat is at the top. Okay? If we want to play the first inversion for a B flat major chord, B flat is at the top. Same thing with a E major chord, E is at the top. So first inversion, the root note is at the top of the chord. Okay. The second inversion, the root note is in the middle. All right. So let's go back to C major root chord. So just take the 5 and put on the bottom. So 5 which is G. And take that note and put it on the bottom. Okay. So now C is in the middle. That's the root chord, the root note, I'm sorry. So now we got the root note in the middle, which is C. So that's the second inversion. So for the second inversion, the root note is in the middle for the major chord. Okay? So same thing if we're going to play the C sharp major chord. C sharp major chord, second inversion. Root note is in the middle. Same thing with E flat major. Okay. F sharp major. D major. I'm sorry. Yeah, D. Cool. Alright. So we got the triad covered, the inversions covered, and we got the root note covered. Okay, so at this point you already know what the C major chord is. 1, 3, 5, or can be 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, or 5, 1, 3. That's the major chord in a nutshell. No matter which major chord it is. So the formula for the major chord is 1, 3, 5, and you can mix them up. Okay, and so that's basically it. That's basically the major chord in a nutshell. So the next video, I'm going to show you how to master your major chords.